Being a game master means tracking a lot of information, like a lot of information. We are the authors of the campaign world, every session, and the overarching structure of the campaigns. We're also information brokers. Whatever knowledge the players possess about the game in one way or another comes through us. And that's only the tip of the information iceberg we're constantly managing, both in-game and out. For neurodivergent game masters especially, this poses a unique challenge when it comes to organization. Organizing is an executive function, that is, it belongs to a category of mental processes that help us make plans and execute on them. Executive functions also include impulse control, self-regulation, prioritization, working memory, and time management. So it won't come as a surprise to many people watching this video when I say that ADHD is also known as an executive function disorder. Each of these mental processes is implicated in ADHD, and identifying our struggles with these processes is often the path that leads to our diagnosis in the first place. In this video, I want to zero in on the process of organizing, what it means, why it's such a challenge, and different ways to think about your own information iceberg. What makes this so hard to talk about is that every campaign and every game is different, which seems kind of obvious, but it's critical context for figuring out how you want to organize your campaign. You might be playing an online campaign that requires digital tools, or one played in person with only a notebook, a Monster of the Week game versus a multi-year campaign of political intrigue, a setting you created on your own before the game starts versus one built collaboratively with your players as the campaign progresses. This ever-shifting landscape of informational needs is part of why organizing a campaign is so daunting. No matter what anyone tells you, there's no template that will work for every campaign. I won't pretend to offer a one-size-fits-all solution. What I can offer is different ways to think about your information iceberg and hopefully give you some perspective that you can apply to building your own systems. A key way to break down the iceberg is whether the information you're organizing is static versus dynamic. Rules and mechanics are generally static. They'll stay the same throughout the campaign, and organizing them is mainly about having a repository that you can turn to quickly during a session. Session information, on the other hand, is highly dynamic and changes every time you play, affecting how you prep for the subsequent session. Static information can often be part of your pre-campaign prep. If the rulebook for your system is simple and well-made, like Ironsworn, you might just allow the book to be your repository. If the system is more complex, like Pathfinder or D&D, you may need something that's searchable, like an online database or a rules reference sheet. Generally speaking, though, static information can be prepped up front and then just exist for you to pull from when you need it. Dynamic information is, for me, where the real organizational challenges come in. Not only does it need to serve as a repository, I need to interface with it regularly and change it as the campaign requires. It's also not cleanly divided between categories. An NPC's character sheet is generally static, but their motivations and goals are subject to change based on the evolution of the narrative. PC sheets are generally static except when leveling up, but PC and NPC relationships can change dramatically over the course of a single session. Static versus dynamic is useful because it tells you what kind of information you'll be managing in an ongoing fashion and allows you to prioritize the information that requires the most of your attention. Categories of dynamic information include campaign information, including aspects of your setting, your ongoing plot lines, quests, and everything else that only the GM will see directly. Player-facing information, NPCs they've met, things you've told them, all the things the players can learn or already know and that you need to keep straight in order to avoid confusion. Remember, players have at most the note that they've taken. They'll often mix up names, places, goals, and so on. It's going to fall on you to remember a lot of the details correctly. Character information. Your player characters, their abilities, skills, relationships, even backstories can be dynamic depending on the player. These should be tracked by your players too. It's everything that appears on their sheets, so you can in theory offload this part to them, but theory and reality are often two different things, and I think it's still best practice to keep track for yourself, especially if their backstories often come up in your plot lines or other character details are relevant to the ongoing story. Session and player information. These are notes, reminders, recaps, potential ideas, and, taking note of players' reactions, what they like and dislike, and what engages them the most. This might be the most dynamic category, and also one of the trickiest to organize, because a lot of this belongs to the meta, social aspect of running campaigns. Like I said, it's a lot of information to manage. In order to dial in on what's important for your unique game, after each session, go through these categories and make a note of which one seems the most important at that moment. Maybe an event in the last session suddenly changed the setting drastically and you need to consider the consequences, or one of the players told you they dislike their character and talking about that should be a priority. This is the first step to knowing where you need to focus your attention and how you need to manage your time during prep. It's worth taking a closer look at the idea of player-facing information versus GM-only information, since it's also an important way to break down your iceberg. In regards to player-facing information, game masters approach this very differently. On one end of the spectrum, a GM will rely on players to take their own notes, while on the other end of the spectrum are GMs who put all the lore the PCs would know into a wiki or other public-facing document. Each of these approaches has its strengths and drawbacks. Relying on your players to take notes frees you from the burden of creating an extensive reference document, but not all players are good note takers, and it's likely that translation errors will occur. On the other side, a wiki or Google Doc containing all the world's lore serves as a repository that you and your players can reference at any time. However, creating and maintaining an external database is a time-consuming process, and in my experience, most players won't engage with the material outside of sessions, let alone assimilate and retain it. My solution to this falls somewhere in the middle. My players, who are thankfully great note takers, have a whiteboard on Miro.com they maintain that contains their basic information, maps, any quests that are active, and a mind map of narrative threads that they're following. Since my game is very NPC heavy, after each session I put pictures of new NPCs onto their board for them to organize and take notes on, along with any important information from the previous session. I don't spend a lot of energy on world lore. That information is mostly static for my game, and I was able to set it up for the players prior to the campaign starting. For a quick and engaging way to share world lore with your players, check out my video on visitors' guides to see how I present that kind of information before the campaign begins. A final way to break down the information iceberg is by your strengths and challenges. I am very good at remembering NPC relationships. Because of this, I don't devote as much time to organizing them. I am not very good at remembering the voice I use for an NPC, and I need to leave a note on their file so that I know they sound slow, growly, and British. It's hard to know when you're first starting out what your strengths as a GM are. I over-prepped when I started GMing, and every ADHD GM I've ever met has gone through the same thing. Time and experience will teach you what information you can retain on your own and what information requires an organized system that supplements the areas you're not strong at. I probably sound like a broken record, but recording your sessions and listening to them while you prep is enormously helpful in examining ways you can improve your GMing. Not only will you catch information and interactions that you forgot, you also get the chance to analyze your own performance. Are you dropping NPC names? Do you have to look up lore frequently? That should give you a hint as to the information you need to organize better. Good organization means having the information you need quickly at your fingertips when you need it the most. Pay attention to yourself during sessions. What information are you dropping? What causes you to pause the game to look something up? That's the information you need to spend time organizing. As you continue GMing, make a list of the things you know you're good at and the things you need help with, and focus your organizational systems around your areas of growth. This has all been pretty abstract, and one thing I want to do with these videos is give you all something practical to take away and implement in your own games. I'm going to talk about an organizational tool I already mentioned, which is a free whiteboard app called Miro. For the record, they're not paying me to say this. It was the first whiteboard app I ever tried, and I'm sure there are others out there that would do just as good of a job. If I sound overly excited, it's just because I get like that about things I'm passionate about, and I'm really passionate about Miro for a lot of reasons. It's organized visually. This is critical for the way my brain works. I can make mind maps of the ongoing narrative, map out the progression of the story and potential branching paths, and create diagrams that visualize relationships between characters, factions, and locations. It helps me to manage my dynamic tasks. It's easy to create a sticky note during a session to flag something I want to remember and just place it in a dedicated location to reference when I need it. It's a resource hub for static information. This part is absolutely crucial to me. I can put pictures, text, and sticky notes, videos, spreadsheets, and PDFs right next to each other, and I can play or read them directly on the board. For the first session of my campaign, I mapped out the flow of the introduction scenes, grouping pictures and sticky notes together to make sure I didn't miss any beats. At the bottom of each segment is a YouTube video of the music I used for that scene. Everything I needed is in one place, at my fingertips the moment I need it, organized in a way that makes sense to me. It allows me to cluster ideas together. ADHD brains tend to think laterally, that is, we draw connections between ideas in a way that isn't direct or straightforward. One example of this is my music moods section. Rather than having a bunch of playlists for different moods, I can lay out a gamut of songs ranging from chill to tense to battle and place the songs along a spectrum according to their vibe. Music doesn't always fit neatly into a single category, so Miro allows me to organize this and other information in relation to each other. Finally, it's collaborative. While I'm the only person who looks at my GM board, the board my players use is something each of them can organize on, leave comments, and generally work together to create something helpful. And I can add lore and pictures as they come up during the game. This works great for my table, and I could see it being really useful in a co-GMing situation as well. To an outsider, a digital whiteboard looks like someone's conspiracy wall. I've thought about this a lot, actually. There's something kind of ableist about the way we make fun of people who use cards and strings to connect their thoughts in a visual, nonlinear way. But that's just how my brain works. It might not be direct, but there is a logic to it. Creating an external storage system for your brain works so much better when the result actually looks like your brain. Instead of forcing your thoughts into categories, try a system that encourages categories to arise organically from the way you interact with it. That's how thoughts work in your brain, and it turns out it works just as well outside your brain as long as you have a tool that supports it. In the future, I'd like to do a video where I organize a one-shot from start to finish in Miro. Let me know if that's something you'd like to see. All of that said, there is no single correct tool to use or way to organize your game. Every game is different, every table is different, and every game master has unique needs. Focus on identifying dynamic information, what you need to know versus what your players know, and on your areas of growth in order to develop the systems that are best for you. And if possible, experiment with tools that support lateral thinking and organizing to work with your brain rather than against it. That's it for now. I hope you found something in here that helps you as you build your own systems. Special thanks to the people supporting this channel. It's been really gratifying to see that number growing. If you found any of this useful, consider buying me a cup of tea or becoming a monthly subscriber at ko-fi.com/astralmarmot. I think there's a real lack of content in the gaming space that talks about being a game master through the lens of neurodivergence. It's why I started doing this, and someday I'd love for this channel to support itself. Every little bit helps me get closer to that goal. Thanks for watching. Do please like and subscribe, go get a glass of water, and may your information iceberg be organized, dynamic, and exactly what you need. And unclench your jaw.